Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We are here to present our whole recommendation for Osotapa stock price. With a target price of 37.31 Thai baht per share and just a slight upside of 8.93% from our last closing price. Despite the strong outlook of the company, we believe that there are enough support for our whole recommendation, which can be explained by these four recommendations. First, see it as Osotapa catalyst. Second, cost reduction effect. Third, Myanmar market growth in energy drink. And fourth, dominating domestic sales. Before we diving into the details, let's take a brief look at Osotapa revenue breakdown. Osotapa main target market is Thailand, which accounts for 85% of the total revenue, while Myanmar comes the second as the largest overseas market. Due to the disruption from the pandemic, the company remained focused on strengthening their core product, which is employ hasip and seaweed, and it keeps the business heading in the right direction. With Osotapa business growth strategies of driving innovation for sustainable growth and multi-brand strategies, it helped Osotapa to conquer its domestic energy drink market in the recent years. However, since the energy drink market is starting to mature, a strong growth of Thailand consumer expenditures on non-alcoholic beverage help further support Osotapa to remain on its top position through their clear business strategies.
So, what makes our share price up? First thing, seaweed as an Osotapa catalyst. Back to 2019, when Osotapa first launched seaweed in Thailand market, the market share of Osotapa in this segment increased 10 times. So we identified seaweed as an Osotapa S-curve. Therefore, if Osotapa going to launch seaweed in Myanmar 2022, we expect to see the increase in the total sales in overseas functional drink market at 25%. But how we came up with this number? Here, we apply the consumption rate per capita as our main determiner, which is calculated from the functional drink market price of Osotapa, historical population, and also the functional drink domestic sales. From these three, we are able to calculate the consumption rate in Thailand at 2.15 bottles per person per year. Therefore, we assume that the consumption rate in Myanmar would be 1.08 bottles, or 50% less than our country as our base case. Therefore, with this consumption rate and also the functional drink price in Myanmar, and also the forecasted population in Myanmar 2022, we expect to see the total sales of 880 million baht from the help of seaweed based on the spot rate of 52.63 baht per Thai baht. This means the launch of seaweed would contribute to the increase in 24.03% in total sales in functional drink overseas market. However, not only seaweed, but also the strong energy drink market growth in Myanmar that would positively affect our share price. So the energy drink market in Myanmar have a high tendency and capability to grow much more after the better political situation. But why we believe that? If you take a look on the population, Thailand and Myanmar have a quite population in the same size, close to each other. But if we look at the market size of energy drink, the size of Myanmar is 3 times lower than Thailand, which means that it's a huge gap for Myanmar to grow. With a forecasted average growth of 7.5% per year. This means the growth of the strong growth of the energy drink market in Myanmar will contribute to the increase in total sales in overseas by 5.04% CAGR.
The company also enjoys the cost reduction effect from various projects that they have established, which includes the Fit Fast Firm and Fast Forward 10X. In fact, the company states clearly that they wanted to reduce the total cost of goods or reduction of 5 billion baht within 5 to 7 years. However, our team analysis believe that the base case and the most likely of this scenario to occur is a 5% reduction in cost of goods sold annually. And this can show in our forecast percentage cost of goods sold to sales in a decreasing trend, despite the increasing trend of cost of goods sold relative to the revenue forecast. With the three prior factors are the contributing factors to why the stock price of Osaka Power would grow. However, we determined the last factor that would halt into a whole recommendation for the stock price, which is dominating domestic sales. In fact, as we mentioned, the company depends heavily on the domestic portion in the revenue drivers. Approximately 85% of the total company's revenue depends on them. However, if we look into the forecast domestic energy market growth in the future, we can see that the year-on-year percent growth is decreasing. What does that mean to us? This implies to us that the company is relying on organic growth of the energy drink market, and thus we cannot. We believe that the company's potential to sales growth is limited. That is why we recommend it for a hold.
So we recommend hold in our valuation. Based on our relative valuation, we recommend hold with the target price of 37.31 Thai baht per share. And these are all the reasons why. As we mentioned about the revenue and the cost drivers, those all reflect in the net income growth to be stable, as well as the net profit margin of the company. And these will all also reflect to the earning per share growth to be stable as well. And another point, if you look to the PE band in year 2022, the PE band line in year 2022 is just a little bit below the average. So basically, if we want to recommend buy, we will recommend buy when the PE band is on the -1 SD. But here, drive our assumption to recommend hold. And the last one for the method of our relative valuation, we use the peer-weighted average PE method. By comparing the Osaka competitor with the criteria of the market capital, net profit margin, ROE, ROA, and business nature, by giving the rating similarity score 0 out of 10. So we come up with the conclusion that Osaka price should be traded at the peer-weighted average of 27.38 PE. And as you can see in the graph that we forecasted the forward PE of Osaka is just a little bit below the peer average. So that's the reason we come up with the target price of 37.31 Thai baht per share and the recommendation hold.
We also constructed the risk analysis, which determines different factors that would affect our valuation model. And for our analysis, we identified that the two most devastating factors include the COVID-19 lockdown restrictions and the volatility of raw material prices, with the highest severity of risk and probability of occurrence. With factors as such, we also conduct a scenario analysis how these factors affect our valuation model and thus the stock prices. But the best base and the worst case are the ones that we projected for. The insights that we get is that the best and the worst case yields a different recommendation for the stock price recommendation from us, which is buy and sell accordingly. What that tells us is that this further supports our point in holding onto a stock, since different uncertainty events of the future could affect stock price recommendations.
The ESG analysis also support our recommendation of hold due to the low score. The environment and the governance are considered as the unsatisfied. And for the
20 seconds left.
For the environment, the company would like to reduce water consumption to 2025, and they want to reduce greenhouse gas emission, and they want to do the sustainable packaging. Also in 2030, they would like to do the 100% recyclable, compostable, and
Time's
reusable
up.
packaging.
Q&A session, please. You did good analysis on the Myanmar market, how it can grow from this top-down approach. In terms of this risk associated with Myanmar market, how do you evaluate the risk? What aspects have you looked at it?
So as we focus on the Myanmar market, right, we all know the unstable political situation in Myanmar, right? So what factor did we forecast? We forecast in the depreciation of Baht to Thai baht, and we can see that for our forecasted year in the next 5 years, Baht will depreciate to Thai baht about 2 to 3% each year. Yes.
So is there any other risk apart from currency depreciation risk?
Basically, the currency will lead to the risk of when you convert the revenue back to Thailand to be less value than the usual.
Yeah. So this is all.
Yeah.
Apart from currency risk, is there any other risk that you also felt could be a risk associated with Myanmar?
So as we mentioned that the market growth of energy trading would be better after the instability of political situation. So this means that this is the huge risk of the energy trading, also the supply. If the political remain to be in this worst situation, which means the energy drink could not grow. We have forecasted that in 2021, the energy drink dropped 12% from the instability of political situation, which means if the political situation remains to be in this situation, the energy drink could drop instead of a growth. That would be big.
Have you followed the inflation there?
So we have used the inflation, the unemployment rate, and also the macro factors to analyze the overseas sales before we compute the income.
Do you know what's the latest inflation in Myanmar?
Oh, we haven't applied that the latest.
My quick question would be, what the last slide for OSP used for calculation of the upside? I saw that your first date is date as of December last year, but what about yesterday, right?
So we use the price in the closing date of the December 2021. But however, right now the price dropped to about 32.
Actually, how much is that upside now?
So if we compare to this current price, the price will be increased by upside of around 10%. So if we compare to the current price as of today, the price the recommendation will be changed to buy. But so our financial model and our team use the fixed price at the year ended 2021.
Is there any event happened that you recently that for the company that you can change, you may change the recommendation?
Yeah,
Other event that also have made the price drop from the end of year also. Is there any event that?
so you mean like if there is the recent event or some news out? Yes. If there is a news happen after the fixed current price after the fixed price as of December 2021, therefore the recommendation will change because we fixed that if the upside is higher than 10%, we will consider a buy, or even 0 to 10% we consider a hold. But in fact, this means if there any situation happen after the fixed price of 34.25 baht, which means there is a change in the upside and downside.
So since you have the whole recommendation, and I want to buy one stock in this sector, which stock that you would pick for me instead of this one?
You mean the in the energy drink sector?
And why?
So basically we recommend you buy CBG as the also some main competitors because we have calculated the evaluation based on the PE of the peer average. So this means also CBG have quite a similar ratios to also supply.
And to add on, if you to add on, if you consider the relative valuation and you look into the PE, so we can recommend you to buy Sepe or Ichiban. If you compare to the peer average in the market, that the price of the specific company should be traded at the PE of the average. Yes.
So if you recommend Sepe and Ichiban, so
Yes.
so also supply, what is the metrics of also supply there in the score competitor? Because I see like CBG, Ichi, Sepe, and Oishi, but was the also supply?
Also in the table we just compare to only the competitor. So we want to extract the competitor from our company. We have the forecast of our company in also in the balance sheet and also in the valuation part that we have forecast, and we think that we should separate to see the real average because if we compare the company inside, we will compare to the same company with the same criteria. So that is not possible.
So to add on him that are you concerned that why there is no also supply on the tables?
Yeah, you don't have to calculate it there, but I just want to see the metrics of the also supply there as well. Like, is it like the ROE lower or higher, like comparing to others? What's the ROE level right now?
Okay, so basically the table show the similarity, the score of similarity, how the ROE, the reference of ROE from the also supply, which means the higher score mean the ROE and ROA might close to also supply. However, we didn't concern the difference in terms of negative and positive. We concern the whole number that how it different from the also supply. The higher the more close, the higher score.
What's the ROE right now for also then? Just want to get the exact number. Don't have to be exact, maybe like 10, 5, or whatever. What's the ROE? Just the number.
You have about 1 minute left.
So the ROE would be around 18%.
That's why I asked. You presented that each sheet, or no, the first one, the CBG, has an ROE of 10%. And if you come up with OSP with the ROE of 18%, that's like almost double from that. And you have the whole recommendation. That's what I really want to know the answer, like why.
So basically the table show the score of similarity. So we subtract the ROE of also to the CBG to find the difference. That means if the difference is higher than the competitor, the score will be lower. If the company has a higher the ROE to A close to each other, which means the score will be higher at the rate of 0 to 10.
20 seconds left.
Okay, probably too little time.
So that chart, the vertical one is PE. What's the horizontal metric? The vertical is PE. That chart. This one, yeah. The horizontal metric is what?
Time's up.
peer average. Peer weight. I'm not sure like what's the peer weight average, but
It's average.